In this video, I'm going to show you how to use Google Classroom. Google Classroom is just another way to formalize your classes online and be able to give your students work and receive work from your students through a different format. And it works obviously within the Google system, incorporating all the Google apps. Okay, when you open Google Classroom for the first time, it'll look slightly different from this. It'll look like a blackboard, and this is what it looks like when you start populating it with classes. And you can see I've got a couple of classes set up in there. If I wanted to create a new class, I go up to this plus symbol here, and you can see there that I have two options. I can create a class, or if I'm a student, I can join a class. As a teacher, I can create a class, and to do that, you would give your class a name. And in this section here, it's just a way to divide that subject into individual classes. So if you had multiple classes over a year, or if you had multiple classes of the same subject over different years, you could divide them up like that. Okay, when I create a new class, it'll pop up like this, and it will design it randomly, and you can change that design however you like. Over here, you can select a theme for your Google Classroom, or you can upload a photo. So if you select a theme, you'll get to choose from a number of different images and designs that Google have available for you. If you wanted to do things your own way, you can upload a photo and use that as the image for your individual Google Classrooms. It's just aesthetics. It doesn't really matter all that much, but you want to make your courses look more appealing to your students. That's how to go about it. I've created this classroom here, Ice Cream 101, and I've started to populate this, so we'll just use this as a platform. Okay, you can see here we have these three sections in each Google Classroom. We have the stream, where we can see all of the content that we've added, comments from students, etc. In the students section, this is where we would go to add students, and there's a couple of ways that we can do this. We can invite students via email, and this would let you go into your Gmail contacts list and check students off to add. Alternatively, if you have organized emails into groups, then you can just select one of your class codes and add it that way. Alternatively, students can join your class through the use of this class code. So when we first came into Google Classroom, remember, and we have this join class option, that's where your students would go. They would click join class, and then they would type in that class code, and they would be able to join your class that way. If you check that drop box there, you can reset that class code, but it's just a random bunch of letters. We also have the About section here, and the About section lets you type some more information in about your class. Give it a title. You can give it a description. You can add the room number. If your class stays in a particular room, you can add that in there. And these calendar and Google Drive folders, I'll explain that in a little bit. In this About section, you also have the option of adding materials. So you can see there, if I tap that Add Materials button, I can add files in the forms of PDFs, Word documents, images, etc. I can add Google Drive items, so that would be Google Docs or Google Sheets or Google Slides. I can add YouTube videos, and I can add links to websites. So you can see that's what I've done there. I've got a link to a website, and I've got a YouTube video that the students could play straight in Google Classroom. Okay, so once my students have been added, it's time to start creating some content for them. One of the best things about Google Classroom is that we can give Google Docs to students individually rather than just giving them the one Google Doc and asking them to make copies of that doc. That doesn't always work well. Often you have students editing the original Google Doc without making a copy of their own. Sometimes it becomes quite messy. So we go down to this little add button down in the bottom here, and you can see that brings up a number of different options. We're going to create an assignment, so I'll check that box. What we want before we add an assignment, we can do this in a number of different ways. We can upload a document, we can attach a Google Drive item, a link, or a video. So here's one that I've created in Google Docs. I've created an assignment in Google Docs, and so I've got that one copy of that assignment. If I now go into this assignment box, check that Google Drive option, and look for that assignment that'll be in my Google Drive, I can add that, give it a title, add some instructions if I feel it necessary, create a due date for that, and you can even add the time that that's due. So I'll make that due on Monday at 9 a.m. Okay, if we drop down this box here, we get a number of options. The students can view the file, the students can edit the file as a class. There is also this option, make a copy for each student, which I'm going to select. I'm then going to assign that. And there it is in my stream. So that's popped up, and each student will get an email alerting them to that assignment. Each student will also get their own copy of that assignment. Okay. What will happen when you create an assignment in Google Classroom, if you go into your Drive, you'll find this folder here, Classroom. And when you go into that, it'll give you all the different classes that you've created in Google Classroom. And in each classroom, it gives you any items, any materials that you've added, plus those assignments, plus the original templates of each one of those assignments. And if you go into the assignment, there's nothing in this one yet. Here's one that's been prepared earlier, and you can see there that that's created a Google Doc for each one of the students in that class, okay? And each one of the students has started to edit that doc, and I can go into any one of those students' work, see what they've written, and add comments, okay? And the students can reply to those comments. What you can also see is what students have completed the work and which students have not completed the work. Okay, so if I go into that, it's telling me that these students have the work, but it hasn't been completed yet. In this one here, I can see that some students have completed the work, some students haven't completed the work. Okay, so that's just a way to check up on who's falling behind. I also have the option here to email students. I can email all the students in that task, or I can email just the students that haven't done the work. That's a good way to communicate just with those students that haven't done the work. You can drop them an email and just give them a reminder that their work's due. You can also see that I can create marks for that task. I can make it out of 100. I can make it unmarked, ungraded. If I make it out of 100, then once the students have finished that work, I can go in and give them an individual mark. You can also see here that I can add a class comment. So I might give them some more information about that particular assignment. I might let them know that the due date's been changed, things like that. So I'll add that class comment and that'll pop up on their Google Classroom, and it'll also shoot them an email. We also have the option here to create an announcement, which will just give the whole class an announcement. It'll end up on their stream and it'll shoot them an email. Or I can create a question. Okay. It can be a short answer question. It can be a multiple choice question. And we have these options here. Students can reply to each other. So if you want this question to be answered collaboratively as a class, then students can reply to each other's comments, or students can edit the answer. So one student might type something and then another student might add or change that student's answer. So that would be something that you would want the entire class to work on collaboratively. And you can choose whether or not to have those options checked or unchecked. If you go to the About column, you can also see that we have a calendar set up for each classroom. If I view that in Classroom, it'll just give me this immediate calendar with some due dates. And there's the assignment that I set up, which is due for Monday. This will also create content in my Google Calendar. So if I tap that, go into my Google Calendar, and you can see there that in my Google Calendar, these assignments have been created. There's the one I've got set for Monday. I can turn those on and off in my calendars on the left-hand side there. And if I wanted to edit that, I could perhaps set a notification, set a reminder to myself, or my students could go in and set reminders to themselves to give them a heads up that that work's going to be due. Another good thing to do in Google Classroom is often you might set up a share folder for individual classes, which I've done here. I've got beginner ice cream share folder. There's nothing in at the moment. What I can do is I can grab a link to that share folder, copy and paste that link into that materials column there. And now students have that link directly to their share folder. And that's basically it. So you can see that it's quite simple, but that's kind of part of the beauty of Google Classroom is its simplicity. It doesn't become too complicated, both for teachers to use and for students to use. There is also a Google Classroom app on both Android and iOS, and that will allow you to set up notifications on your phone or on your tablet. So if students post a comment, that comment will pop up on your phone, which might sound horrible to some people, but it's also just another way of contacting and making contact with your students.